I just accidentally took down all my tabs. So before I start, I wanted to change how I start giving my sermons. So normally I do them based on script that I write beforehand. And today I'm going to try actually just have bullet points. I'm going to try and actually talk to y'all a little bit more. Try and get y'all a little bit more worked into it so y'all can understand it better. I think y'all could understand it better if I work y'all into it. I think y'all could agree. Okay. I thought the same thing. So it'll be a little bit rough because it's the first time I've ever tried it, but work with me. Please talk back. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Just anything. If you have any input, please put it in. I'd love to hear it, and it'll make the stretch a little bit longer. But we are finally starting back on our series of John, and we're going to start in John chapter 6. If y'all put that, I don't know where it is in the Bibles. Or like what page number, I know where it's at.
It's 606.
606.
Oh, wow.
What?
You like
Come on. Is everyone there? Anyone still working on it? Okay. Just let me know. Good. Okay. So, we're probably going to split this chapter up into two separate parts because I think there's two very important things to look at in this chapter alone. So today we're going to focus on just the first part, and that'll be verses 1 through 9, maybe a little bit more into it. I'll see as we go. But how many people know the story of feeding the 5,000? But raise your hand if you know it. Oh man, I thought this was a popular one. I guess that was Sunday school way back in the day. So, if you don't know what the feeding of the 5,000 was, Jesus is with his disciples and they go to Galilee. So Jesus went with his disciples to Galilee, and there's this enormous group that they say is about 5,000, and that was just counting the adult men. It's all the fathers and stuff. They didn't count the wives, they didn't count the children. I don't remember. I know I've seen things that talk about how it says it was probably closer to around 8,000 to 10,000 people, but we'll just keep it 5,000 because that's what it says right here. But 5,000 people there, and they start wondering how they're going to feed all these people. Well, this was one of the miracles Jesus did, where he was given, to feed all these people, he was given 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And he took that and passed it out to all the people in the crowd, so much so that there was still food left over. And while that's one of the more important things that people really learn about when they hear about the story of the 5,000, most of the time it's taught as a Sunday school you go to when you're a little bitty, you learn all your little Bible stories. You learn that it's one of the miracles Jesus did. You probably had to color some little picture with little 5 loaves in a basket. But I want to talk about something deeper than just a little Bible story. So starting in verse 1, it says this. This is NIV. Oh, are those CSB? I think it's a little different, but it has the same idea. John 6, 1 through 9. Let her pull it up. Or I guess y'all have it right there, so it'll be fine. So, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he had already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." So not even a full meal, just a bite. It would take half a year's wages. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how will they go? How far will they go among so many?" So, first part of this sets the scene we're looking at. You have Jesus, and he's been healing the sick We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. There was a dude at the pool, and he was trying to be healed for like 30 years, and no one ever helped him. And then Jesus came and told him to pick up his mat and walk. That was a little bit before this, so these are all the people that witnessed this and all the other healing he was doing, and they were just following him around. So they get to the Sea of Galilee, and they're still following him around. Jesus is still teaching, and eventually it goes up to a crowd of like 5 to 10,000, somewhere in that pretty broad range. But I don't even know how to paint a picture of how many people that is. Any of y'all know like a good thing that would probably have 5,000 people, like an event or something. I'd imagine probably like a big concert. Imagine all the people at a big concert following one person up and down the mountains. That's the best way I can really describe the amount of people, because any 1,000 is a lot, and there's 5,000 people following Jesus to Galilee. And it's not only a massive crowd, but they're also hungry. They have not eaten a whole lot because they only had enough to eat what they traveled with. They were going with Jesus for some ways. And then they get to a resting spot, and Jesus asks, and it talks about how Jesus already knew what he was going to do, but he went and asked his disciple, where are they going to buy the bread for all these people? And obviously he responds and says, like, they don't have enough money. Even if they worked for an entire year, they would only have enough money to feed everyone one bite. But here's where a cool thing happens. On verse 9 it says, here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. And I want to highlight that one specific part where it says, go back up, Kenley, a little bit. There's a boy with, okay, so does anyone know what barley is? Huh? Yeah, it's kind of like wheat. So back in these type of days, there was different types of bread like we have now, but there was 2 main pieces, like types of bread. There was the wheat bread, and there was barley bread. Wheat bread was like the rich people bread. It's like kind of what we have now. Like most of our bread comes from wheat, and it's like denser, thicker. It rises better, and it was the best way to. Have y'all ever had like pita bread, like grease food pita bread? It's basically like that is what they ate. It's like this little dense, kind of like pizza dough, a little bit, and that's what they'd eat. That was the bread they ate, but that was wheat. Barley was a lot grainier and a lot more like coarse. I don't know if I've ever had barley, or if y'all have ever had barley bread, but it wasn't something that's gross. So you can imagine how that probably was for him. People that ate the barley loaves were most of the time people of like lower class. They were like peasants, they were farmers, they were people that didn't really make a whole bunch of money. So the wealthy people ate all the nice wheat bread, all the nice pizza dough bread, and the poor people had to eat these little tiny barley loaves that were super coarse and grainy, and they would probably fall apart in your hands because it wasn't real like dense. So this little kid comes up, and even though there's all of these 5,000 people all in the crowd, all trying to hear Jesus, they're all hungry. To help him, this little boy comes up with his lunch. His mom probably packed him on his way to go up there, just like any of us would go to school, sort of. And he gives him this little bit of barley and this little bit of fish. And I think this is something that we should look to, what's the word I'm looking for? Imitate. So if I were to ask you, Riley, if that was your lunch for the day, and there was 5,000 people that needed to be fed, would you split that 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish among all 5,000 people? If you had the power? Or you just had that one little bit? What would you do with your little bit of food that you had to share with everyone? Let's go somewhere else. Nicholas, you'd have a funny answer. What would you do with your 5 pieces of bread and 2 fish, Nick? I want a Nicholas answer.
I'm pretty confident. Okay, so I would share it. I would, if I could, duplicate it or whatever, I would, but like, I would share it.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's all the food he had. That's like normal food to him. Like, you have your normal food. What do you eat? What did you have for dinner last night?
I don't even know.
I would share.
I'd be
Because it's like 5,000.
Yeah, there's 5,000 people.
I would like to
I had
say
chicken.
that I would definitely.
Wait, no, I had Sonic.
Son, what'd you say?
I said I would like to say that I would like, in that moment, I would do that, but I would
Share it,
definitely
but like-
would not.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm definitely not.
You put me on the spot.
So, if you're, for most of y'all sitting here, y'all probably want to make yourselves look a little better in front of everyone and say, oh, I'd share all my bread. I for one, would not share my bread with all 5,000 people.
It was
I would share it.
Okay. Alright, now I'm getting the reactions I was looking for. So, it sounds kind of selfish to say it, but most of us probably would not share our little tiny lunch sack for that day, especially if we had to split it with 5,000 people. We would look at our little lunch sack and think, why in the world would I try to share this with 5,000 people? But here's the thing. This little kid came up to Jesus as they were looking to find food and just coughed it up. He didn't think anything of it. All he was trying to do is think about how he could help. And that's something I think we should look forward to, because it's not what he gave that made it so important. It was 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Most of the people in that crowd probably would not have wanted to eat it. Most of the people, like, barley loaves were looked down on so far that it was like sometimes not even good to feed their animals. They wouldn't feed barley to their pigs sometimes. And this what this little kid had to eat. And instead of thinking, well, no one wants to eat this little bit of food I have, so I'll just save it for myself, he goes straight up and just gives it. And I'd say even myself, there's some stuff that I wouldn't even give up like that. That's a lot more expensive than that little bit of barley. There was, for a long time, sports I didn't want to give up, which I would think to myself are a lot more expensive than that little bit of barley would have been. And I couldn't cough that up for anything. For some of us, it might be other stuff. Maybe you got a boyfriend or something, and he just looks super good every day. Well, would you be willing to give that up if he decided he wasn't going to be able to follow Christ with you? You did, period.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is that little kid gave all he had. Like, that was it. That was his lunch for the day. This wasn't like, it really wasn't even his lunch. This was his, like, daily meal. This is all he had. It was his breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was everything this little boy had to eat. And without hesitation, he immediately gave. He didn't bargain. He didn't say, well, I'll give you this little bit, and then I'll keep the rest for myself. He models exactly what we need to be. And his poverty, which is also our poverty. Maybe we're not actually impoverished, we're not actually poor, but in the sense of, I just lost train of thought. In the sense of that we need Jesus. We're impoverished in the fact that we are nothing without the grace that God gives us. And we cannot, we have the grace, but we cannot accept it if we're not willing to give up stuff. If we're not willing to cough up that little bit of barley that Jesus needs to use to transform us. Oh, I lost my spot. Oh, here it is. Jesus doesn't need our polish, he needs our honesty. Jesus doesn't want you to come up to him already beaming. He doesn't want you to clean yourself up before you step foot in front of him. He wants you to come exactly as you are right now. And that's super difficult, because who wants to go to church? Like, this is something that my mom's always said to me. I'm sure all of y'all know how I wear my super baggy and one shorts. Everyone know about them? My mom absolutely hates them. I'm not allowed to leave the house in those shorts unless I sneak out with my N1 shorts. And one day she caught me trying to go to church in my N1 shorts. Not like Sunday church. She caught me trying to come here with my big old baggy N1 shorts. She said, "Landon, what on earth are you doing?" And I said, "Mama, I do not think Jesus cares." Frankly, I think Jesus would probably wear the same thing. Not actually, but I say that because it doesn't matter how you step in front of Jesus. You don't have to be super cleaned up. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a polo. It doesn't matter what brand that polo is. It doesn't matter what brand your jeans are, boots are, heels. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a born-again believer. It doesn't matter if you just got out of jail yesterday. As soon as we step in front of Jesus, He's going to welcome you with wide open, loving arms. So you don't need to polish yourself to come before Him. You don't need to go trade in your little bit of barley for some nicer bread to give to Jesus so that He can spread it out. Instead, this is what Jesus is going to do. Jesus is going to take that little bit of bread you gave Him, like the little boy did. He took that basket with the 5 barley loaves and the 2 fish, and He went to all 5,000 people and passed out enough for them and their entire family to eat. And then guess what happened at the very end? There was still enough food left over to fill. How many baskets was it left over? Somewhere in there. Yeah, Jesus. I can't find it. I heard a bunch of people saying 12, so we'll go with that. 12. Does it say it over there? So He transformed those 5 barley loaves into something that fed thousands and thousands of people and left food left over. So I want to ask you, if Jesus can do that with a little bit of barley bread that was considered not even good enough to feed pigs, what more can He do with what you give Him? What more can He transform when you give up the little bit of barley that you're keeping to yourself? I was finally able to let loose all the sports and stuff that I was holding stuck to my heart. I was super stubborn. Couldn't stop cussing during football. It was just what happened. It was just caught at my intensity. I was super mad. I don't know if any of y'all were water boys. Did anyone water boy while I played? Hayden, did you? How aggressive was I?
Pretty aggressive.
Pretty aggressive. How aggressive was I this past year?
Not as much.
Not as much? Okay, that's what I like to hear. I will admit I had some trouble with it still, but it wasn't nearly as bad because I decided that Jesus was more important than my intensity on the football field. Jesus is a lot more important than the way I look on a football field. I was so wrapped up in trying to look like the meanest dude out there, even though I'm like this tall. So it was pretty hard to do that when you're a little bitty, so I had to like get on all fours and bark at people like an animal. I had to look mean, but it took a lot more in me than you would think to be able to reel that back and allow myself to work for Jesus rather than my athletic, I guess, I forgot where I was going again. Yeah, my athletic prowess. It was a lot more important to me how my relationship with Jesus was than how I looked on a football field. And I feel like that's something that we probably struggle with a lot, especially as a bunch of young teenagers. There's so many angsty feelings that all of us have. It sounds super cliche, but we all have little weird things that we do. Bruce, it took fishing to get you here. Would you be able to give up fishing? Maybe. Anyone else want to raise hands? Something that's I'm about to start pointing fingers. So someone just give me your favorite activity, my favorite hobby. Don't whisper, guys. I can't hear you.
Football.
Football, good hobby. It's my favorite hobby. Sleeping, that is not a hobby. Sleeping's not a hobby, guys. Like what?
Oh my gosh. Volleyball.
Hanging out with my Xbox. That's my favorite.
That's a good one. Xbox. That's another really good one that a bunch of people probably struggle with. Raise your hand if you struggle with the Xbox or any sort of other game. Not near as much as I thought. So, the thinking about, well, that'll be funny in the video. So, like you sit there and think about your favorite hobby, would you be able to give that up? If you had to give up just a favorite possession, would you be able to give that up? Who here would be able to give up their phone? Broken. Okay, could you go a week without touching Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, anything? No texting? Oh, let's see. I want to see this put to action. I want to see if y'all could really do it versus all talking. I'm not talking to you. But, pulling it back in. Attention everyone. So, thank you guys. So, wrapping it all in. This little tiny boy, I remember looking up how little they thought he was, but still, he's young enough to be called young in the Bible, which is probably pretty young. And he gave this little bit of barley, that was all he had. And Jesus used it to feed this multitude of people. It shows exactly what the gospel is completely about. The gospel is about transformation and not self-improvement before salvation. It's about giving all that you have so that Jesus can transform you. Not so that you can think you have to be this better person before you come to Jesus so you can look like a good Christian, because there's no really any good Christian. You have either a strong relationship with Jesus or you don't. There's no in between with it. You can't be a little bit Christian, you can't be a lot Christian, you can't be a little Christian. There's only one. You're either in a relationship with Christ or you're not. You've either given that little bit of barley that little kid had, you've either given that part of your heart that you had to sacrifice for Jesus, or you haven't. So this is the heart of the gospel. Come as you are. Because a church is not a museum for the holy, but it's a hospital for sinners. I thought that was super cool. I don't know if you saw that. I thought about that the other day. I thought it was super cool. A church is not a museum. It's in that way, it means like you're not supposed to come in here. Even if you're dressed up, Riley has a nice dress on. You don't have to come like that, guys. You can come like I do in my big old baggy M1 shorts and my 3 Doors Down shirt, looking like some dad from like 2003. So you could look either way. You could be fresh out of federal prison. You could be coming from Meemaw's down the road. It doesn't matter where you come from, how you look. There's one thing that will save you, and that is being able to offer what you have to Jesus so that He can transform you. So, I'm going to ask you one more time, and you don't have to answer this out loud, but I want you to sit here and deeply think about this. What are you holding on to today that Jesus is inviting you to release? Right now, what is something that has been holding you back from fully giving your life to Christ? What is something that it just feels like a roadblock? This boy's story is also our story. It's every Christian's story. Every Christian that has been able to come to Christ had to sacrifice something. Whether maybe it's even time, which is something that most of us take for granted a lot of the time. But it's the stuff that we have to realize is super important. It's not come and look good before Jesus. It's come as you are and be transformed by Jesus. Give Him what you have and watch Him do more with it than you ever imagined. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you. Small group? Small group?